In this video, we're going to do the paranormal history profile of
the White House.
Well, hello there, parapeeps, and welcome to another episode of Our Haunted Travels. I am your host, Sean Donnelly.
And I'm your co-host, Marianne Donnelly.
That is right. In this video, we're going to tell you all the paranormal information and history about the executive presidential mansion for the United States, the White House. But before we get into that,
if you're into the paranormal, history, or forensics, well, you want to, of course, hit that subscribe button and ring that little bell. Make sure you hear from us next time we post a new video.
That's right. So we did quite a bit on the channel over the past couple weeks about the White House. But we didn't cover the history of the White House and our personal experiences. So let's get started with the history. So watch this video and we will be right back.
Today, this building is known as the White House, but its true name is the President's House. The building features the Oval Office, Lincoln Bedroom, and of course the famous Rose Garden. And it remains the only private residence of a head of state open free of charge to the public. The official home for the U.S. President was designed by Irish-born architect James Hoban in the 1790s. It was rebuilt after a British attack in 1814, remodeled, renovated, and added to through the years. Throughout its history, the President's House has continued to evolve with the personal touches of its residents and accommodated technological changes as they became available, such as the installation of electricity. The building has undergone major structural changes throughout the years, such as in the early 1900s under Teddy Roosevelt, who, by the way, officially established the White House name, and again under Harry Truman after World War II. Not long after the inauguration of President George Washington in 1789, plans to build an official President's House in a federal district along the Potomac River took shape. A contest to find the builder produced the winning design from Irish-born architect James Hoban, who modeled his building after an Anglo-Irish villa in Dublin called the Leinster House. The cornerstone was laid on October 13th of 1792, and over the next 8 years, a construction team comprised of both enslaved and freed African Americans and European immigrants built the Aquia Creek sandstone structure. Though George Washington did oversee the laying of the cornerstone, he didn't live long enough to see the completion of the house. It was coated in a lime-based whitewash in 1798 that produced a color that would eventually give rise to its famous nickname, the White House. Originally built at a cost of $232,372, the two-story house was still not quite complete when John Adams and his wife Abigail became the first residents on November 1st of 1800. Thomas Jefferson added his own personal touches upon moving in a few months later, installing 2 water closets and working with architect Benjamin Latrobe to add bookending terrace pavilions. Having transformed the building into a more suitable representation of a leader's home, Jefferson held the first inaugural open house in 1805. And he also opened its doors for public tours and receptions on New Year's Day and the 4th of July. Unfortunately, the President's House was burned to the ground by the British in August of 1814 and was nearly left to its smoldering remains as lawmakers contemplated moving the capital to another city. Instead of moving the capital, though, it was eventually decided to bring back Hoban and rebuild it nearly from scratch. I say nearly because, in fact, some areas he actually incorporated the original charred walls. Upon resuming residency in 1817, James Madison and his wife Dolly gave the home a more regal touch by decorating it with extravagant French furniture. As a quick side note, it was Dolly Madison that rescued the famous Gilbert Stuart painting of George Washington from the White House during the fire of 1814. Additional work and renovations, though, continue even still today. The north and south porticos were not part of the original structure, and were not even part of it for the first 3 decades. The south portico was added in 1824 and the north in 1829. In 1835, running water and central heating was installed. In 1848, gas lights were installed. Covered pavilions and then large greenhouses for growing flowers and vegetables were also constructed on either side of the mansion, and Victorian ornamentation and decor were added from 1870 to 1890. John Quincy Adams established the residence' first flower garden. Subsequent administrations continued to overhaul and bolster the interior through congressional appropriations. The Fillmores added a library in the second-floor Oval Room, while the Arthurs hired famed decorator Louis Tiffany to redecorate the east, blue, and red and state dining rooms. Electric lights supplemented gas lights in 1891, and the first electric elevator was added in 1898. In 1902, Theodore Roosevelt removed the Victorian ornamentation and restored the mansion to the federal style with Georgian touches. Originally, the presidential staff would work from the second floor of the residence. However, when Theodore Roosevelt became president, he realized that the rooms of the mansion were too small for his large family and his staff. So in 1902, he had temporary office structure constructed on the site of the greenhouses, and with the help of architectural firm McKim, Mead & White, he would enlarge the White House with the addition of the West Wing for the presidential staff to work. Along with the West Wing, he also built an early one-story East Wing as a formal guest entrance. In 1909, William Howard Taft expanded the building and created an Oval Office for the president. In 1923, the West Wing was remodeled. In 1930, it was rebuilt after a supposed Christmas fire. In 1934, Franklin Roosevelt had a second floor constructed and moved the Oval Office to the southeast corner for better light and privacy. He also had a swimming pool and gymnasium constructed in the gallery to allow him to exercise regularly. A new roof and third floor were added in 1927. And in 1942, under Franklin Roosevelt, an East Wing was added, in part to balance the enlarged West Wing, but also in part to cover the construction of an underground air raid bunker, now known as the Presidential Emergency Operations Center. Among its uses, the East Wing has sometimes housed the offices and staff for the First Lady and provides a covered entrance to the White House that allows guests to easily flow through the mansion for large social events. A major overhaul took place after Harry Truman entered office in 1945. With structural problems that were mounting from the 1902 installation of floor-bearing steel beams, most of the building's interior was stripped bare as new concrete foundations went in place. Lorenzo Winslow became the new White House architect. The project involved the complete removal of the interior of the White House except for the third floor, and included salvage and storage of critical interior elements, excavation of new basement levels, and construction of new foundations, steel and concrete structure, masonry to interior walls with plaster finish and wood paneling, custom plaster moldings, refurbishing of and replacement of windows, a new heating, ventilation, air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, and communication system, and the bulk of the work was accomplished within the exterior stone walls, which were to be kept in place and simply repainted. On December 13th of 1949, construction began on the site. The Trumans helped redesign most of the staterooms and decorate the second and third floors. During this reconstruction, Bess Truman created the Lincoln bedroom. She did this by compiling into one room Lincoln's famous bed and other furniture from his time of his administration that had been discovered and restored by the Trumans. The total cost for the project was $5.7 million. The president proudly displayed the results of the construction during a televised tour of the completed house in 1952, though he was reportedly displeased with the price tag. He wrote that he could have done it in half the time for half the price if he was in charge of the construction by himself. The architect, Winslow, envisioned many of the interior items such as doors, trim, woodwork, ornamental plaster, etc., that would be reused. So most were carefully dismantled, labeled, cataloged, and stored. Now, a good amount of the paneling was reinstalled in the main public rooms, but other historic elements were simply copied to accommodate increasing cost and time constraints. So what happened to the original materials? Materials such as marble fireplace mantles, pipes, and other things that were not significantly identifiable as having historic value were simply sent to landfills. But some ended up in the hands of those who requested items. To avoid profiteering from the millions of items that were being carted away, they ran a souvenir program beginning in January of 1951. Over 20,000 requests were made from everything from nails to charred wood, and pre-assembled kits were distributed for as little as 25 cents each. The kits included items such as individual bricks, stone, and wood. The program ended in October of 1951, and in that short time, they reported a profit of $10,000. In the early 1960s, the Kennedys remodeled extensively again, and a televised tour of the renovations was made. Occasional renovations do continue today. Over the course of 1969 and 70, a portico-cherry and a circular drive were added to the exterior of the West Wing, and a new press briefing room was installed. Following a 1978 study to assess the exterior paint, up to 40 layers were removed in some areas, which allowed for repairs of deteriorating stone. Meanwhile, the Carter administration set about adjusting to a new information age by installing the White House's first computer and laser printer. The Internet made its debut to the mansion under the watch of George H.W. Bush in 1992. Now, Carter also installed a set of water heating solar panels. These panels were removed by the Reagan administration and later reinstalled under George W. Bush. Many presidents renovate the Oval Office and the Cabinet Room. Richard Nixon converted the pool and gym into a briefing room and offices for the press. He also dedicated the conference room to Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt. In 2006, George W. Bush renovated the press areas and enlarged and updated the Situation Room. In 2017, a $3.4 million renovation was completed in just 17 days. This renovation included updating of the HVAC system, upgrading the building's IT systems, and repairing the south portico steps for the first time since the Eisenhower administration. Leaks within the White House as well as the lower lobby of the West Wing were also worked on, and the Oval Office was restored. The White House today holds 142 rooms on 6 floors, the floor space totaling approximately 55,000 square feet. And it has hosted long-standing traditions such as the annual Easter egg roll, as well as other historic events like the 1987 nuclear arms treaty with Russia. The White House, as we know it, reflects a nation's history through accumulated collections of its residing presidents and serves as a worldwide symbol of the American Republic.
There you go. Some interesting stuff. And I forgot to say that the White House, of course, is in our database. It is Panic D number 1319, and it is located at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Absolutely is.
Washington, D.C. So about the paranormal stuff that we've done, we did a Ghost Stories and Folklore that covered 3 of the quite interesting different things happening there. Put a link to that. Ba-ding! And then we did a Behind the Haunting to cover all of the ghosts that are in there. And I will have to say this. You cannot be guaranteed much in life. But I will guarantee you, folks, that the White House is the most haunted location at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. You didn't know where I was going with that, did you?
All right, folks.
Well, if they stayed with us this long after your history, your dissertation that you did, they deserved a joke. All right, personal experiences. Were you at the White House when you were younger? Go inside?
No, I've never been inside.
No.
No.
Neither have I.
We've been to the outside.
We've been to the outside. I'll show you some pictures. This is about how close we've got to it. The first time we went to D.C., we didn't even go down to the White House.
Yeah, actually, we were on a tour, and they said, if you get off here, you can go down 2 blocks, and it'll be over there. And you're like, no, we're not going there.
Bus.
We don't need to go there.
Yeah.
So then the second time we went together, we did walk all the way from Ford's Theater. We walked to the White House, which,
In July.
in July.
In the heat. Overweight. We walked.
We did.
To the wrong side of the White House.
Well, we walked to the back side of the White House.
Yeah.
So we were able to see the national Christmas tree. I thought that was pretty cool. If we were on the other side, we wouldn't have noticed it.
That's true.
I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, we get to see the snipers up on the roof.
Absolutely did.
Yeah. So that's our experiences. We haven't been inside. We will be back to D.C., definitely. It's not that far. Maybe that'll be one of the goals, is to try to go inside the White House. I'm sure that's going to be a whole day adventure because of the security and everything you have to go through. But, yeah, kind of cool. Knowing that all the spirits that we know now, that would be fun. Yes? So why do you think that this place is so haunted?
Some of the most popular and important people in the world have been there through some trying times, and those types of things tend to imprint on locations. That's my guess.
Yeah, a lot of energy inside those walls.
Yeah,
A lot of very important decision makings. A lot of trying times. I think that's probably why a lot of people have seen Abraham Lincoln in there. He was in there during the Civil War, and that was very stressful and yeah. So, all right. Do you have anything else you'd like to add to this video?
I don't think this time.
Well, we've kept them long enough, I believe. All right, folks. Till next time.
Thanks for watching.
And happy hunting. Let us know if you like this video by hitting that thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, support our channel by hitting that subscribe button and dinging that bell so you get notified the next time there's a video from Panic D Videos.
Thanks for watching.
Happy hunting.